Like, oh my
Okay,
God.
but we had to do like law stuff. Like we had to do like all this law.
Missing out on all the speakers.
All right.
And, like, all that experience.
I had the cool guy. Luckily, I don't know.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and get started because it's 11:10. Sorry, tech issues. But we got it now. Okay, welcome to MTSO, everybody. If you're new, my name is Jocelyn. I'm the president, and we're glad that you're joining us today. Today we have a really cool, awesome meeting for you. We have Shelbe White here from Higher Octave Healing to speak to us. So I'm going to let her get on her thing, but before that, just a few admin stuff for us today. I brought the t-shirts. So if you have filled out everything, you're on Sun Devil Sync, you've filled out our membership form, you've given me a t-shirt size. I have a limited amount of t-shirts we have to reorder, but I do have some today. If you've done all of that, I will give you your t-shirt. If not, we'll just kind of slowly distribute them as we go. We are thinking about having everyone pay dues. So keep that in mind. We'll get more information to you over the next few weeks once we get a better idea of budget, what's going on with our money. But other than that, I think that's about it for me. Check in with Sarah if she hasn't checked in with you yet to get attendance so that you get a raffle ticket. Anyone else have anything? Okay, cool. I'll turn the time over to Shelbe then.
Guys, am I on the screen? Can everyone see? It's not too light. So like Jocelyn said, my name is Shelbe White. I'm currently the program manager at Higher Octave Healing. You probably definitely seen my name at this point. If not, we've met and worked together. I am around ASU. HOH has a pretty symbiotic relationship with ASU. So if you haven't been around us, you probably will. Super quick about me, just so you know who's talking at you. I have 2 music degrees, both from ASU, a bachelor's in music therapy and a master's in clarinet performance. I interned at Higher Octave Healing in 2015 and literally never left. I've had several job titles and several different roles with the company, including some really very clinical work. My specialty is teens and adults with developmental disabilities. We're going to talk about today. But I have worked significantly with older adults, early intervention, traumatic brain injury, recently quite a bit in psych. Including adolescent psych, which is its own adventure. Yeah, so really, I've enjoyed a really good breadth of clinical work. Right now, my job is much less clinical and much more business. I oversee our programs. I make the joke with our staff that my job is to find the money and make it all work. Because music therapy is a business and it takes money to run. So I do a lot of work with contracts, grants, things like that, but I also oversee our programming, including the rock band program. I've worked with the rock band program my entire time with the agency, overseeing it directly for the past 5 years or so. And so it's really my love, my baby. I put a lot of labor into it. I love bringing students and interns in. I love teaching in this setting. There's a lot to be learned musically, clinically about these individuals, about this treatment setting. So it's really great. And I'm glad to get this opportunity to come talk to you about our model. Additionally, separate plug, I am the vice president-elect and current conference chair for the Western region of AMTA. If you're interested in getting involved with professional associations, for better or for worse right now, I'm happy to talk to you and answer questions. There are a few of us doing a lot of work right now, so. Awesome, but we'll get to what we're talking about today. We're talking about our rock band program at Higher Octave Healing. This honestly is what a lot of us know, a lot of people know us for. We do a lot of things. We're a lot of places throughout the Phoenix area, but a lot of people go, oh, Higher Octave Healing, that's rock band. And that's awesome, I love that. So we're talking a little about the rock band program today and kind of its clinical work, how it's therapy, what we're actually doing, benefits to clients, all of that good stuff. So first, a little bit about the demographics of the program. We currently have 14 music therapy rock bands. We're there 4 days a week rocking. Rock bands are all 2 to 5 members each. Our age range is huge right now. Our youngest client is 12. Our oldest is in their 50s. And everywhere in between. We match clients in groups by age, by interest, by, we're not going to say ability, but by need, kind of we work to find clients that are compatible to work with each other in that group setting. And each rock band has at least 2 staff members. And so a few of you have volunteered with the rock band program. That's part of how we achieve kind of more one-on-one attention for the clients, our therapists, our interns. So we can come together and have a really, we call it a low ratio experience, where the clients get really individualized attention, as opposed to in other group music therapy settings. I have been by myself in front of 30 clients before. So it's a very kind of unique program in that respect. All of these people vary in diagnosis on kind of the developmental disabilities lens, including autism spectrum disorder, Down syndrome, epilepsy, cerebral palsy, more general developmental and cognitive delay and disability. So that's our clientele in this program. So I'm going to walk through the treatment process of how this is music therapy. And so, of course, we start with referral and assessment. Clients get referred to the rock band program. Typically, what I'll get from parents or from referring individuals is, my child wants more social experiences. My child needs to learn how to communicate or work with peers better. Sometimes music gets mentioned. My child loves music. My child wants to play music. That's not a bad thing in a referral at all, especially for this program. But really, we're working on those social communication, life skills, community building, team bonding, all of those kind of non-musical benefits of the music therapy program. And so the clients will start with an individual assessment with myself or another therapist. We are assessing cognitive, communication, social, psychosocial, and motor skills, as well as music skills and music interest. A client can't dislike music or not want to play music and be in this program. They're really not going to be successful if that's the case. So we want to know about their music interests for sure. And then once we assess, they're placed into a band kind of based on that. We're looking for some criteria like, are they self-aware enough? Do they have their kind of sensory needs under control enough to participate in this really loud, sometimes chaotic environment? Are they reasonably independent? Do they have some baseline communications? If some of this kind of checklist of things isn't in place, we may refer to a different program. Maybe they're not quite ready for rock band. Maybe it's not the right fit. We're looking for individuals who really will succeed and grow in this extremely unique program. I also tend to talk fast, so please interrupt me if you have questions. And we'll kind of side note on that. So we do set goals and objectives. This is absolutely clinical. It's absolutely therapy. It's absolutely individualized. So out of that assessment, we're setting goals and objectives. These are behaviorally oriented objectives. Part of that is kind of the theoretical orientation of the therapists at our company. We're pretty kind of set in behaviorism, even if we'll draw from other models. We'll kind of start in that place of what's the behavior, what's the change. And so we're writing these really good, smart behavioral objectives. And some examples of those. These are 4 really common objectives that I definitely have written for clients before. You can see they're measurable, they are time oriented, they have hard numbers. You can see the roadmap to taking data off them. If you do a practicum with me or any of my colleagues, you will absolutely write your objectives like this. So this first one, clearly articulate a word or phrase. That's the behavior we're looking for. A lot of our clients, especially with Down syndrome, have speech difficulties. As adults, they're working and they need help being understood and being able to communicate with people independently. So we'll help with that speech articulation. Conversation. So we'll engage in turn-taking conversation, also really common. We want clients to learn how to socialize in this really safe environment. Problem solving is one that I write really, really often, especially with some of my more mature clients who have been with me a while. I start to hand them more of the reins, set up tasks where they have to be more independent, sometimes let them struggle a little bit in those music skills or in those other things so they can work on those skills of problem solving. Yeah, so these are all really common. I hope you've seen formats like this before. This is a really specific way to write a music therapy objective, but that's what we're doing. And then we're implementing treatment. So this is kind of an interesting one. And if you do a practicum in this setting, you'll see what I mean, that It's very dictated kind of how the program goes and what clients are coming into and what you're coming into as a therapist, that the session has a structure. There is kind of an end goal to what's happening. And so we typically start with, I call it a social interaction intervention. So for the first 10, 15 minutes, we're sitting in chairs, we're in a circle, we're engaging with something as a team that may or may not be related to the rest of the session. We're working really directly on themes and goals that kind of address the client's objectives, and interacting with each other in a really facilitated way. Then we go into music rehearsal. Rock band is very client produced. The clients pick the songs. The clients choose what instruments they're going to play in each song. The clients have as much input as possible as we're arranging and deciding how we're going to cover the song. And then that's where that low ratio comes in. I might have somebody over on the drum set while I'm playing piano with a client. That's two completely different levels of instruction happening at the same time. And so we really engage that lower ratio to help the clients where they're at. We adapt everything. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We adapt all of the music instruction to the needs of each individual client. That means providing the notation they need, providing the level of prompting they need, fading that prompting as they progress. I am such a believer, even though it's music therapy, the goals are non-musical. I'm such a believer that I want to help my clients progress musically. That's part of the therapy. It might be increasing self-esteem. It might be increasing the social capital of being in a rock band and performing. It might be increasing just sheer ability to learn a new skill, and all of those processes of learning that are absolutely therapeutic. So I work to help my clients advance musically. When they master one skill, I want to show them the next skill. Some other notes about our session structure and kind of where the therapy folds in. Our clients are responsible for the equipment. And if you volunteered or done a practicum in rock band, it's a little weird right now because we're still in COVID protocols. But normally our clients set everything up, they clean up everything. They know the gear in the room probably better than you do coming in as a volunteer. They very much have ownership over that space and their instruments and their gear. And that's part of the therapy, again, teaching that responsibility, teaching those processes. And the last thing I put down here at the bottom, I very much hope this isn't the first time you're hearing this, but the idea of a process-oriented music therapy intervention. We create products all the time. We create music videos, we do recordings, we perform at least once a year. But the interventions are always in the process. In the process of creating that end product, we're addressing all of these clients' goals. The point is not necessarily that end product. Although it's really nice and really rewarding to be working towards something instead of just coming in and playing music week after week. So. Okay, so I talked a little bit about the session structure already. So we do a social interaction of some sort at the beginning of every session. That usually starts with, hey, how was your weekend? We want to kind of normalize that idea that you're seeing a group of friends for the first time in a week. So what's your first question? Hey, what'd you do this weekend? So we usually start there, and then we'll move into something a little bit more structured that engages communication, social skills, teamwork. I'll show you an example in a second. And then we move into music rehearsal, and that was all that good stuff that I just talked about. We'll typically, in normal times, we'll work on a song, we'll pick a song and work on it for a few weeks. The band will decide if they want to do a recording or make a video or perform it for somebody. And then we'll move on to the next song. Right now, we're kind of in a cycle where we're preparing for performance. So the bands are working on multiple songs and kind of going through that work of putting a set together. So it's a little bit different. Okay, so a couple videos kind of showing off that session structure. This first one is a social interaction intervention. The theme is teamwork. And so the group being asked to complete a teamwork task. Thank you. Oops. Maybe. Of course, you worked for me elsewhere. I went, oh.
Sure. It's to the right.
Those JBL sounds are the best.
Yeah.
Take two. Fortunately, I know what it is this time. Wanting to pull this out from HDMI, which doesn't exist.
Got it.
Hold this hand.
You're gonna hold your other hand.
Yeah, you see.
All right. When you're ready to move.
I'm good.
Okay, let's all say for it. Got it.
Hold this hand.
You're gonna hold your other hand.
Yeah, you see.
All right. When you're ready to move.
I'm good.
Okay, let's all say for it.
1, 2, 3.
Go, walk that
Go,
way.
walk.
Right that way.
Slowly.
Don't move.
Slowly.
Slow, slow, slow.
Man, I like that t-shirt. It's like.
Let's go 2 more minutes. Slow, guys.
Hey, until Evan can touch the wall.
Oh!
So what were we doing in that video? The theme was teamwork.
Everybody had to move together or the drum would have dropped.
Yeah, so we all had one hand or one finger on that drum. So what kind of skills does this take to pull off? Think on a really maybe even simplistic level.
It's good communication skills and also working on some fine motor skills as well.
A little bit of gross motor and some gait
For
because
sure.
you're walking.
For sure.
Coordination.
So really multifaceted. I told you the theme was teamwork and thinking about communicating with our peers, moving together as a group, understanding who was doing what, but then you have all those other benefits, the motor skills, the act of communicating, the physical act, the cognition of what you're doing, that absolutely all plays in as well. So that's what an opening intervention might look like. So this next one is a little clip from rehearsal. So what did you see in terms of how the clients were being supported?
We each had one staff or volunteer.
A lot of them were giving, I mean, I couldn't quite tell with like sound cues because I couldn't hear them, but they were giving a lot of physical cues,
Yep.
especially like rhythmic.
Anything else?
They were being supported in a way that still allowed them to do it independently, partially, and not just done for them.
Yes. All really important to kind of the core of what we're doing here. Supporting in a least restrictive kind of way, supporting in the most effective way. So there are definitely sound cues, a lot of visual cues, some physical cues even, and all kind of to the level of that client. I had a really fairly independent drummer who just kind of needed that beat versus the person who was on guitar needing a lot more physical in that visual prompting. And so it's a really wide range. This is probably one of the higher need bands. You're going to see our lower need bands in a second. Some of my clients could put me to shame on some of the instruments. So kind of understanding that spectrum of what we're working with and assuming one of our big kind of tendencies in organization clinically is that we assume competence. We want our clients showing us what they can do and then where they need that support and assistance. We don't want to assume any of that. Cool. So I want to move on to, what do I want to move on to? Yeah, so a little bit about adaptive music instruction. So this idea that we're meeting clients where they are, we're using a lot of this different prompting that you already brought up. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the notation here in a second. But we'll use different forms of notation that meet the client's needs and kind of their cognitive abilities and needs. So I'm going to show you the color code in a second, but then keeping in mind that I have clients that can read sheet music. I have clients that read regular chord sheets, lead sheets. I have clients on the opposite end that don't read anything and are relying completely on those verbal and visual cues. So we are doing that work, and this is where our interns and our volunteers are really invaluable. We're doing that work of meeting every single client where they're at. So here is some of what we've developed. So this is kind of a layout of the color code. So this is actually literally came from the ordered colors on a sheet of stickers. They are slightly off from the decibels and more similar to the boom whackers, if you're curious, which is absolutely aggravating. We just need to create a line of instruments that they're all the same. But we put, so you can see on the different visuals here, that's what the stickers might look like on the neck of the guitar on top. And then the stickers on the piano on the bottom. That way everyone's speaking the same language. Something that music ed is really good at talking about, and we can kind of utilize in music therapy, is the fact that music notation makes no sense. There's nothing, you have to encode everything. There's nothing inherent about looking at notes on a staff and understanding what they mean. It's all coded, and you have to learn the code, you have to learn the language. This starts to remove that barrier because I'm seeing the same color up here that I am on my guitar or that I am on my piano. So it's just that act of matching colors. Our system is very imperfect. Flats and sharps are a little bit of a struggle sometimes that we work through. Also rhythm is a little bit imperfect, and I'll show you that in just a second. But this is kind of really good base level of how we start to teach. And then I'll put chords together. I'll show you every single color you have to play on the piano. Or I'll do out a diagram of what the chord looks like on guitar in terms of colors to really kind of reinforce that code on any different level that a client's playing on. Does that make sense? Awesome. So I'll show you, this is an example of what the sheet music might look like. And so my goal in creating this document was to emulate how we read music in terms of rhythm. And so if you think about a measure in sheet music or how we notate rhythm in tab, I wanted to kind of show the beats in a measure. And so I'll teach clients, I'm like, hey, that G happens 4 times. Let's count to 4. And I'll teach clients how to kind of code this and read this that way. A lot of my clients have caught on to it since we moved on to this system. A lot haven't. It really, again, we meet clients where they're at. This is one way of presenting things. And then I'll go through verse, chorus, bridge. I'll show the form, starting to teach clients about form and how to read through this. Again, got clients at all different levels in that spectrum. But this is what we might create for our clients, at least as a starting place. I've also done, I have a lot of clients that value seeing the song lyrics and knowing where the chords sit with the song lyrics. So I might do a color-coded lyric sheet. I might add lyrics into this as cues as the clients get more and more independent in reading and want to see kind of a full picture of what's happening in the song. So you can see a little less precise when it comes to rhythm. We might, if we're teaching rhythm, we might do that by ear or use some other type of notation. But this is a really good starting place for reading, especially a chord progression. Makes sense? Any questions about that? No? It's all very imperfect. And as the person who designed a lot of it, I'm happy to say that. All right. So then a really big part of what we do is production and performance. This is where kind of that idea of working towards something, that idea of building social capital, what's cooler in our society than saying I'm in a band, right? So building that, this is where we start to think really community music therapy. What can we do in our community for our community? So one thing that we do really frequently is our clients might record. They might do a recording or a music video that we can share online. We did an entire virtual music festival in 2021 when live performance wasn't an option. We've done lots of community outreach performances. Most recently, the city of Tempe had invited us a couple years in a row to their disability awards because that's a thing. And it was a really, really cool event that was honoring and celebrating people in the communities of the individuals I'm serving in my community. And so getting to perform for that and getting to serve our community in that way was a really cool experience. And then we have our flagship event every year. Music from the Heart is our annual rock band showcase. We are doing, I say annual, but we're doing our first one in 3 years this year. So that's where we are. We're preparing right now. This is a day long, all 14 rock bands hit the stage and perform. And so they put their set together. They choose their songs, they choose their instruments. We get to ask things like, okay, what's going to help you sound the best? What's going to help you perform? How do you want to be on stage? We teach clients how to represent themselves. They write their bio, they take their, I refer to it as their album photo this year. It's such a blast. They do fun things to decorate the green rooms. We're doing a CD wall this year. It's a blast, and we involve clients at every step of the way we possibly can. So I wanted to kind of show that off. So this is highlights from our 2019 show. Yeah, this is highlights from our 2019 show. I put these together every year, so it's definitely all of my favorites. And so that's what this looks like. So going from the rehearsal video to what the bands might look like on stage, you're going to see a few different bands. You'll see kind of how those need levels vary and how we support that. I should say the band's all named themselves too, so you'll see their names. Yeah, so that's what it looks like when we start to kind of bring it all together. Yeah, that day is a lot of fun. You can see we bring professional lighting services in. That video was not professional. That was my husband on an iPhone, but we are bringing professional video in this year, professional photography. We refer to this, they do an autograph signing after the show. We refer to this as getting the rock star treatment. It's so much fun. I always tell everyone, I'm sleep deprived and overcaffeinated by the end of the day, but it's all worth it. It is a blast. So for my ulterior motive and the real reason I'm here, this is a really volunteer ask heavy performance. HOH enjoys a really wonderful relationship with ASU and we love engaging with students. So we do look to students to help us volunteer. It is so much fun. Unfortunately, I don't have anyone in the room who's been there before because it's been 3 years, but it's such a fun day. We're looking for a couple of different types of volunteers. I am still very much in need of a photographer. At this point, I am open to photographer shifts and excellently amateur iPhone photography. If we don't have professional photography skills, wonderful things can be done on an iPhone. So if you're interested and that's something you like to do, don't be afraid to sign up as a photographer. I welcome it. Additionally, mostly what I'm looking for is band escorts. These are people who, from the time the band arrives at the beginning of their show until they leave at the end of their show, just a couple hour time period, you're with the band, you're hanging out with them. It's a chance to spend time with people who really are peers. These are teens and adults. They hang out in green rooms backstage, they socialize with each other, they perform, they come back, and then you'll help them with their autograph signing as well, which is so much fun. Band members constantly tell me it's their favorite part. So we're looking for an escort for each band that day. The QR code gets you to the Sign Up Genius. I can also share the link with Jocelyn afterward. So you can see the different shifts. It is an all-day thing. I'm also looking for a couple of intrepid morning people to help us with load in. We start for shows at 10 a.m. So we'll start at about 6:30 in the morning. If that doesn't scare you, I'd love your help. As well as a couple of people to help with load out at the end of the day. I'm around to answer questions about this, about the program, about Higher Octave, clinical work, our internship, anything. I'm gonna leave this up. Like I said, the QR code gets you to the Sign Up Genius. I'll follow up with the link for anyone who's not here or anyone who's on Zoom. Please help us out if this sounds fun or interesting. We do, I'll tell you up front, we do have a COVID vaccination policy. Anyone who's in contact with our clients does need to be fully vaccinated for COVID. So again, I'll let you know that up front. But otherwise, we're so happy to have music therapy students come volunteer with us.
So
Questions?
Yeah. So thank you so much, Shelby, for this wonderful presentation. I'm really excited about the rock band. I need to sign up volunteer. But now's the time. We have about 20-ish minutes left. So if you have any questions about what music therapy looks like at Higher Octave Healing, or what the rock bands look like, or whatever questions you have for Shelby, now's the time. All right. Got a question over here. You want to ask your question?
Thanks. Yeah, so I was just wondering what kind of stories you've heard from, like, or, you know, what you've seen in terms of how this has improved, like, their musical lives, and like maybe just things that parents have noticed or things that you've noticed.
Yeah, great question. My most favorite recent one, because coming out of COVID, there's a lot happening. There's a lot of talk about mental health. We don't talk about mental health in disabled populations nearly enough anyway. I had a parent come to me and say, you know, when we reopened, which we reopened a little later than everyone else, in late 2021, and she came to me and she said, this has been the biggest improvement to his mental health. Getting back to rock band in person specifically has been the biggest benefit to his mental health. I have seen really quiet clients become immediately more social. I had a client who I did not assess for rock band because the referral stated a severe social phobia, and like mom described it as uncomfortable with more than 1 or 2 people in the room. He's now in rock band. I did not have a clip of him up here. I wish I did, but he, as soon as he has a mic in his hand, he is a hip hop star, DJ, mega talented, did a literal mic drop on stage once. Just like, you would never guess that he was referred for social phobia. I love watching people's motor skills grow on drum set. Teaching drum set for therapy is one of my favorite things to do. And just watching clients who could barely keep a beat rock it with 4 limbs a year later. Anyone who's played drum set knows how hard that is. So yeah, lots of stories. Yeah, thank you. Any questions? Feel free to just shout them out. I'm not a big hand raise person.
I used to work at School of Rock, so I'm really familiar with the benefits to this kind of group-oriented music therapy, especially like in a therapeutic sense. It seems super effective. I was curious, like, because you were saying that the students or the clients rather pick their instruments. How, for example, like how if 2 clients wanted to like play drums, for example, how would you like work that out amongst the 2 of them?
A lot of rotating. We'll do a lot of you play this time, they'll play next time. With, like I said, some of my more mature clients where we might be working on problem solving or conflict resolution, I might pass it more to them, like, okay, guys, how do we make this fair? Sometimes with more obstinate clients, or if the clinical needs indicate something else, I might bring in an electronic drum set or different percussion or something. It's usually drums, isn't it, right? It's usually drums. I have only one band that I can really think of where, and they're a really, to use language I hate for a second, they're really high functioning and musically very talented. And so they've all kind of settled into their instruments in that band. Most of our bands kind of rotate between songs. So I play a little of everything. Any question?
Other than the rock band program, what other sorts of programs does Higher Octave have?
Yeah, so in the clinic, we're not doing too much right now. It's mostly rock band, got a little bit of one-on-one therapy. We're starting some small groups and different specialized small group programming in the fall. I don't want rock band to be people's only path. So we did some really successful, we did a vocal skills workshop over the summer that we're gonna bring back in the fall. That was a lot of fun. Some other, I think we're gonna do a songwriting class in the fall. Some other kind of specialized group programming for younger kids. But then our therapists actually spend a whole lot more time, and interns, if you're thinking about internship, this is good to know too, spend a whole lot more time out in the community. And so we do a lot of work with schools. We work with a couple of different specialized schools that serve mostly autistic children, several hours a week. And so our therapists and interns spend a lot of time there doing music therapy, and kind of being the group music class there. We have a couple hospice contracts. We do a little bit of hospice work, as well as a couple things with older adults. We currently do group therapy with a large post-incarceration reentry facility, as well as some other addiction recovery. I mentioned adolescent psych. We have an adolescent psych hospital right now. Some other community-based like outreach, like community centers for people with developmental disabilities. We're extremely varied right now, which is my biggest sales pitch for come intern with us, come work for us, come get to know us. So you're gonna get a lot of different clinical experience really quick. Any questions?
This is more a personal question, but do you have to be a music therapy major to volunteer for this?
Not necessarily. I'm a little close to the vest in terms of client contact, but if you're around the music therapy program, are you a music major?
I'm a psychology major. I'm a
Okay.
music minor.
Good with it.
Yes.
Come volunteer. Yes. I am a little close to the vest. Like, don't tell me that your business major friend who's never met a client with a disability wants to volunteer. Not really what I'm looking for. Although if you want to come volunteer in the office. But yeah, I absolutely welcome you. Any other questions?
Hey, I have a question. So as far as Granta Switch, for those of you who don't know what that is, that's the Western region of the American Music Therapy Association. How are ways that students can get more involved to learn more about internship opportunities or just opportunities for us in general for continued education credits or, you know, the whole works, the benefits of being a part of a region and and working with other professionals?
Yes. I will first say, I am sure you've heard a lot about AMTA right now. What I will say is choosing to be a member of AMTA means you're also a member of our region. Our region is awesome. Our board is really wonderful and really hardworking. Even if you don't choose to be a member, I get it for a lot of reasons right now. Follow RAMTA and RAMTUS on social media. RAMTUS is Western Region American Music Therapy Association for Students. That board is also really great and really active. They do a lot of like internship spotlight, student geared internship. No, not internship, student geared workshops and things like this that are more speaking to students instead of the professionals. So they're a really fantastic resource. Follow them on social media. Follow us as well. We're less student specifically oriented, but as you're looking toward the profession, it's good to know what's going on in your professional association. We are doing a conference in the spring. If you haven't heard, we're headed to San Diego in April. It's going to be so good. I'm not just saying that because I'm the chair. There is so much pent up readiness in that community because we canceled our 2020 conference in San Diego. We're just now getting back in 2023. It's going to be so good. Please come April 11th through the 16th. You'll see registration come up in January. Ask for registration for Christmas. Conference. I started going to conference as a student. I was actually lucky enough. My sophomore year conference was here in Tempe. So I was able to volunteer, start to get involved. I kind of went up through the path that you board members are going up right now, starting at MTSO. I did never serve for RAMTUS, but I've been serving for RAMTA since I was a very young professional. I've been on the board for several years now. It's such a wonderful way to connect with professionals. As a younger professional, feeling maybe a little isolated in the field because a lot of jobs aren't like this. You're not going to be around a bunch of other music therapists all the time. It's a good way to connect with your music therapy community. And then as an older professional, I'm starting to find, you see the unfortunate burnout rate in our profession. You see people start to fall away around you. You start to see that everybody at work is younger than you. Not so much anymore, we're getting better, but you see that everyone at work is younger than you. To go sit on the board and be around professionals who have been doing this 10, 15, 20 years gives you a lot of hope in the profession, gives you a lot of grounding, gives you just a lot of things that you may not find in other places in this field. Highly recommend. I know it's a complicated endeavor right now. Please ask questions of the involved people that you know in professional associations, because something is going to emerge out of what AMTA is going through right now, and we want to make sure it's the right thing. Thank you. Any questions?
Okay, if there's no more questions, as long as you're okay with it, Shelby, we'd love to grab a group picture.
Cool.
With you to put on our social media, and we also just want to get confirmation that it's okay for us to post the Zoom meeting on our YouTube channel for the members who didn't get to view it. Is
Yes.
that all right?
Absolutely.
All right.
I'll leave you all my cards as well. Like I said, grab that QR code and my email address is up there too, but I'll leave you guys my cards.
I'm going to go ahead and end the Zoom. Thanks for joining us on Zoom today. All right.
Was it just?
Okay, when did you leave there?
Let's see, 20, I worked there like on